I'm sorry for that interruption. Could you please ask your question? You have 2 minutes and then 1 minute for a supplementary question if you so choose.
Don't you think it's funny that the only people who are happy for the consultation are the minority who are wanting to impose this new tax? By the minority, I mean 19%, according to the latest polls. Yes, 81% of us stand against this. So why are the 19% in favour of a consultation? I know. They think they know, as you know, as we all know, that the only way you're able to bypass democracy is to force this through by appearing to listen to the people. This is not democracy. You, all of you here, you, our elected leaders know it. You have a duty to defend the democratic process. Not a single one of you stood for election on this issue, as been said earlier. You have no mandate and therefore do not have the authority to make a decision for us. Do you really want to be responsible further down the line for making this decision on our behalf? I wouldn't, not for all the tea in China. Given the gravity of the proposal and the lack of public trust in the consultation, do the Council not agree that the only decent, moral and democratic decision open to them is to grant the people their right to vote on this contentious issue, the issue ever discussed in this chamber?
Councillor Beckett.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you, and thank you for coming and asking your question. I actually thought you were going to ask a question about foster carers, but that's fine. Okay, no problem. But thank you for coming along and asking your question. It is really vital that we have everybody engaged. Originally, I believed you were raising an issue about foster carers, and it is an incredibly important part to talk about is people with disabilities and how they're affected by this. I hear constantly of issues of people being affected with disabilities from a lack of public transport, or to parking issues for blue badge holders, pavement parking affecting the blind, all the way up to how busy streets can overwhelm children suffering from autism. These are all things that need to be carefully considered. One of the big strengths of referenda is that they treat everyone voting equally. It is also one of their biggest weaknesses. Referenda are notoriously bad at considering the needs of minority groups, as we've just highlighted with disabled people. Is it right that an able-bodied person who only visits Cambridge once a week gets the same voice as somebody who's disabled and lives and works in the city? Is it right that a 17-year-old reliant on public transport to get to an apprenticeship gets no voice at all in a referendum? What about somebody living in Saffron Walden but caring for somebody in the city? Again, they would get no vote in a referendum. So whilst I understand the desire for direct democracy, and we're about to have a big debate on this, be aware that referenda can lead to some of the very groups that we care about the most, the groups that we're trying to protect, to become marginalised and excluded.
So you have 1 minute to ask a supplementary question if you choose.
Well, I do thank you for all the disability parts that you said in that, because I've got Parkinson's, so I do have a disability. But okay, then would you mind explaining to me something? The consultation could be completed by anybody in the whole wide world, and that has been proved by IT consultants. IT consultants have verified that it is completely impossible to filter out all the multiple entries because of this. The data being used by the decision makers is not reliable for that fact. So you're talking about the people who just live around. What about the people all over the world, you know, who voted in it, who, you know, went for the consultation? Given the information, do the council not agree that the only way is for a referendum and risk making the wrong decision for the wrong and due and poor information? I was here 2 weeks ago when I heard about Jerry Bird and all the things that happened to her, and I didn't know any of that. And that really worries me about all you councillors making a decision today, and that could all happen.
Time's up, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
You've asked your question, I think.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you again. And The point about Councillor Bird is well heard. I don't know if you're aware, but after Mill Road, all of us that voted in favour had our public details shared online, with people being encouraged to come around to our houses and have it out with us. That's not what we should be doing in public society. It is really important that we all talk about this. This is a really challenging issue. It really is, and I believe that. So we do really need to consider it really, really carefully, and that needs to be done with people being careful and actually listening to each other. Quickly to come back to your point about people voting from all over the world, that's actually a slight specialist subject of mine. I used to be an IT security professional. All I used to do is doing those sorts of things. So there are very many ways that you can look to exclude those and to look at where people have voted from and to take out multiple responses. Very happy to do that. The GCP will no doubt be looking very carefully at the data to make sure that it is an accurate reflection of what people believe, and they will be doing an awful lot of analysis on it. It is within our bounds, and we should be looking at that data, listening to all of those voices and analysing it, and then us taking the very, very difficult decisions forwards after that. It isn't going to be an easy decision for any of us, but we need to be doing it carefully and considered. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the public questions. We're now going to move on to a petition.